Greetings, friend. Alexandra Perna sent this puzzle to Mark Goodliffe back in 2020, asking if he could solve it and do it without bifurcation because she was stuck on it. Well, Mark did solve it, and he claimed he did not use any bifurcation to do it. I will show you how he solved it, and I'll break down and name all the strategies he used, and you can decide for yourself, was it bifurcation or was it logical Sudoku solving? I also have my what if and pause the video moments. You want to check those out. Click below if you want to give this puzzle a go. And with that, it's solving time. Okay, first thing that Mark noticed is with these 8s, he could solve for an 8 in block 1. And then with the 4s, here, he could solve for a 4 here in block 3. And then he made some Snyder notation marks over here in block 1. And of course, Snyder notation, anytime in a 3x3 block, you have 2 possibilities for a candidate, you mark it. And so in case you solve one of these cells, you can solve the other right away. And it's good for finding advanced strategies here. Then he makes some more marks with the 8s down here in block 8. And then the 2s, only 2 spots in block 9. And then it looks up in block 5 and notices 2 spots for a 1. These ones are very important to the solve. You got to figure out where the 1s go here in block 5. I'll show you that a little bit later. Then he looks where the 8s can go in block 6. Only 2 spots there. And he's going, there's just not a lot here. He can't find anything to solve. So he's just making more Snyder marks at this point. He looks in block 3 for where the 9s can go. 2 spots for there, and it kind of makes them a pointing pair. That means the line 9s are limited to row 1 in block 3. So he does something a little uncharacteristic. He actually marks all 3 of them. Okay, after doing that, he actually focuses on this cell, and this is actually a naked single. You look, can't be a 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. It actually has to be a 4. So he marks that for a 4. And this puzzle gets a little excited about finding that, but that's about all you're going to find right away. The next step actually requires quite a bit more advanced strategy. So he's like, okay, I can't see anything here. I'm going to start putting in my bi-value cells, or BVCs, because that'll be the next clue on what strategies you might need to solve. Because right now he really doesn't know how hard this puzzle is. So he makes a 1, 3 here, and he starts marking across row 3, a 1, 7, and a 3, 7 right there. Then he looks in row 5, and he's kind of working down column 2 here. So a 3, 9 there, a 3, 4 in row 6, column 2. Then he finds a 5, 7 in row 7, column 3. He actually gets all the BVCs except 1. There's another 5, 7 right here. He doesn't seem to mark it. But you can see this really isn't giving him much to work on. There's no naked pairs, hidden pairs. It's pretty tough. And so then he goes, looks in block 3, kind of sees a 7 cutting across. And so he marks, 2 spots for 7 right there. And now he's struggling to find anything. And he's like, this is a vicious Sudoku. Okay. Next thing he does is he says, okay, maybe there's something going on with the 4s, because I have quite a bit of 4s. Let's see what's going on here. And he does this. He marks where all the 4s can be in this puzzle. And what's interesting is that there is at least one advanced strategy right here, but Mark fails to notice it. So this is going to bring us up to our first pause the video moment. Pause the video and see if you can find an advanced strategy using these highlighted possibilities for a 4 while I give you a few seconds. Okay, congratulations. If you spot at least one of them, you are an expert at finding single candidate strategies. The one that pops out to me is a Sudoku skyscraper using columns 2 and 4. Okay, so if you mark all the 4s there, you'll notice right here, if this was a 4, that can't be a 4, this would be a 4, and that cell would be a 4, right? This is a 4. If it's not a 4, this cell would be a 4, and that makes a Sudoku skyscraper. The base is in the same column, and you can eliminate the extra 4. So you can eliminate a 4 from here and here, any place where these 2 cells both see. You can eliminate a 4. This would help Mark a little bit later, and I'll show you that. But that's one of the strategies. Another way you could look at it is, and I'll come back to the colors, is you could see an empty rectangle. If you come here in this block, you can cut across, come up to here, and you can knock that out with one empty rectangle. And then you could do the same thing coming out of block 4. You can come down here, connect to this cell, and you could also knock that out. So you could do some empty rectangles, and you could get some solving done as well. All right, but the skyscraper is a little more effective. It gets both of those knocked out. All right, so we'll remove all those marks, and we'll move on with our solve. So he didn't see anything there, but he does mark all those 4s. And now he starts focusing on the 8s, and he colors all 3 of these cells with an 8. And he says, if this is an 8, and he notices that the 8 can only be in 3 spots, here, here, and here, in block 5. Like if this is an 8, then this would have to be an 8, and with these 2 8s, this would have to be an 8, which means this cell would be a 4. But he also notices that this is an 8, then this cell would be an 8, and that would force a 1 right there, and that can't happen. So this is his first way of thinking here, and he says it's not bifurcating. But he realizes that this cell right here cannot be an 8 because it would force a 1 and a 4 into this spot, and he uses the marks to prove that. So you think this is bifurcation? I want you to put it in the comments and go, yeah, Mark was just seeing if that's true or not. Bifurcation. If you think this is logical, I also want to hear your feedback. And while you're at it, make sure you're subscribing to Smart Hobbies and click that bell for notifications. Get great new content 3 times a week. But this is also going to bring us up to our first what if moment. Mark didn't have the name for this strategy. So the what if moment is, what if Mark actually worked the strategy? What is that strategy, and would you get the same outcome? And I'll show you that right now. Okay, the strategy that Mark found, and it actually works here, is an alternate inference chain type 1. And so you start right here. You got to realize there's only 2 8s across row 6. There's 3 in the block, but there's 2 across the row. There's only 2 possibilities for an 8 here in column 4 as well. So either this is an 8. If it's not an 8, then this cell would be an 8. This would be a 1. This would be a 4. And this cell would be an 8. All right, you also have to realize there's only 2 possibilities for a 4 in column 4. So either this cell is an 8, and any cell that sees it, including this green one, cannot be an 8. If it's not an 8, we just showed through this alternate inference chain type 1, this cell would be an 8. So you can eliminate an 8 from any cell that sees both of these. So you eliminate an 8 from this cell, and that would allow you to solve this cell now for an 8. Okay, that's the logic behind what Mark did, and it gets to the outcome that we are looking for. If you want to learn more about alternate inference chains, I got a whole tutorial for it. Put a link right here. Okay, so Mark adds the 8 right there, gets rid of these colors, puts in these 8s, and then realizes also that there's 2 possibilities for a 9 in block 5. And he's kind of wondering how these 9s interact with these 4s and the 1s. He thinks the way to solve this puzzle is by focusing on block 5. And he is right. That is the way to look at it. And so now he starts looking at this cell right here. He's like, what happens if this cell is a 3? And so he marks it green, and he goes, if this is a 3, first he looks up, go across this way. He goes, if this is a 3, then that would make this a 9. This couldn't be a 9. That would be a 9. And then he says that this cell would be a 4. So he goes like this. However, he makes a little bit of a mistake right there, and I'll show you. He forgets that he still has a 4 mark down here. He hasn't solved that skyscraper I was telling you about. And so really, if that was a 9, you couldn't actually put a 4 right there. But if you'd put the skyscraper in, you knew this couldn't be a 4. So he gets a lucky mistake and a lucky break because he can make that deduction. The other thing he looks at, he goes, if this is a 3, what does this do to the rest of the block? Because it puts a 4 here, it put a 1 here, and with this one, the only place left for a 1 would be right there. And so then this cell couldn't be a 1. And so what he realizes is there'd be no place, if this cell's a 3, there's no place to put a 1 here in block 5. So that can't happen. So he realized this cell can't be a 3. And so this is going to bring us up to our next what if moment. What if Mark had a name for this strategy? What would it be? And I'll show you that right now. Okay, first thing you have to do is you got to get all these markings out of the way. And we need to add a few more connections here to this puzzle here. All right. So we know we have 2 possibilities for 1 here. We got the 4s here. We got the 9s. And you'd have to do the skyscraper to realize that the 4s are only 2 possibilities here in block 5. That's key. That's what makes it work. It's another discontinuous loop. Okay. And you got to realize there's only 2 possibilities for 1 along column 2. That helps make it work. And you only got 2 possibilities for 1 in column 4. If you look, for the 1s can only be in 2 spots in this column, only 2 spots in this column. There can only be 2 4s in this column, and there can only be 2 4s in column 4. 2 4s here in block 5, 2 9s here. This is the key of figuring all this out. So how the discontinuous loop works is basically no matter what we figure out for this cell can never be a 3. All right? And so what you do is you start with this 9. Okay, if this is a 9, this would be a 3, and that couldn't be a 3, obviously. If this is not a 9, then this cell has to be a 9. This would have to be a 4. This has to be a 1. This cannot be a 1, which means this cell's a 1, and this cell's a 4. So no matter what this is, if this is a 9 or not a 9, this cell can never be a 3 because that's a 3 or this cell's actually a 4. So that's a discontinuous loop because what you would do is you have 2 weak links going into this cell right here with the 3. So it can never be a 3. Okay, back to the main solve here. We'll get rid of these and he put a 4 right there. He keeps it in green and then he notices now, what else can I do? Well, if he looks across row 3 and row 6, and this is pretty good on Mark, and he sees that the 3s are limited to the same 2 columns, columns 1 and 7. And so he marks that in blue, and he goes, this is a Sudoku X-wing. Either 3's here and here, or it's here and here. And I can eliminate all the other 3's along columns 1 and 7, because I know that it has to be there, there, or there, and there. And so he gets the color off of there, and he marks every place where a 3 can't be in those columns here in purple. Fair enough. And so then he starts marking some of the blocks. He goes on, that is only going to be a 5 9. That only 2 possibilities for a 3 now here in block 4 because the purple can't be a 3. These can't be 3s. You got this 3 cutting across, and so it makes a pointing pair of 3s right there. And you got 2 possibilities for a 3 up here in block 1. So you can get rid of all those colors. And he goes, okay, that helps out a little bit, but didn't quite crack it. He's really thinking that he's about to get to the place where he can crack this puzzle, and he's not there yet. We still have another advanced strategy you have to get through to get to the end of this. Okay, after putting in all that, then he looks down here in, looks up here actually in block 3 and realizes that a 5 9 is limited to this cell as well. So now he has a nice naked pair 5 9, and so he puts some restriction on row 2. Gets excited because now within the block he's got a 3 7, and he knows that's a BVC and that's a BVC. 3 6 and 2 6. He doesn't mark this 2 3 6 yet. He does notice now that the 3s are limited in rows 1 and 3 in block 1, and 1 and 3 in block 3. And so that's a mini X-wing, you can call it, since the 3 is going to be there and there, or there and there. The 3s are limited to row 2 in block 2 because the 3's got to be somewhere in the row and they're limited in the block. So he puts the 2 marks for 3 there. Realize it doesn't really give him much right now. It's like, okay. Now, so then he makes some more marks. And he's like, this is really a vicious puzzle. And what he starts to look at and what he notices, this is where Mark really shines. He's like, can it be there and there and there and there? And he realizes that the whole crux of this puzzle depends on if you know which one of these 2 spots in column 6 contains the 1. You can figure that out. The rest of the puzzle is much easier. And all these discontinuous loops that Mark's doing is trying to get to that little fact. And he realizes if he puts the 3s here and here, then what does it do to the 1s in rows 3 and 6? It limits the 1s to the same column. It can only be here in row 3, and the 1 can only be here in row 6. It can't be there or there or there because of these two 1s. And he's like, well, then you'd stick 2 1s in the same column. That can't happen. Breaks it out. Again, if you think this is bifurcation, put it in the comments. If you don't, you want to realize and see what it is that Mark found. I'm about to show you that with my next what if moment. So you got to see this. But he realizes the 3s can't be here. They got to be in the other 2 spots. So what is it that Mark found? Okay, to set it up, we need to know there's only 2 places for a 3 here in block 6. And there's only 2 possibilities for a 1 along row 6. And so I'm just going to mark the 2 spots for a 1. So this is another discontinuous loop. Okay, so it's full of discontinuous loops. All right, you notice that this cell could either be a 3. If that's a 3, this cell cannot be a 3, right? If it's not a 3, then this is a 7. That's a 1. This is not a 1, and then this cell has to be a 1. Very simple. Either this is a 3 and it can't be a 3. If it's not a 3, 7, 1, not a 1, this has to be a 1. So this cell here can never be a 3. And that's what Mark kind of figures out there. They can't be a 3, so it's going to end up putting a 1 right there, and the 3s are going to be right here. Okay? You want to learn a little bit more about how continuous and discontinuous loops work. Check out this tutorial. Now I'm going to remove the marks and move on with solve. So Mark's able to solve the 3s in these 2 spots because he knows that this cell can never be a 3. It would mess up where the 1s go. After solving the 3s, he puts a 1 up here, and then he removes the colors. And now he's able to solve the rest of row 3. Put a 7 right there. He's able, since he got the 3 here, he's able to solve the 7 in block 3. And then he's able to work his way with this 3 to solve for the 9 and the 3 and the 9 here in row 5. And then he sees, since he has this 1 right here, the only place left for a 1 in column 2 is down there in block 7. Then he works his way up, solves for 3 up there. He's only got 2 possibilities in column 8, so he puts that 5, 6 right there. All right, we're not done. He's still got to get all this solving knocked out here. So he put some 7s in block 8. Realize he got the 2 7s here. But because of this extra spot that we have 4, it's not actually a naked pair. That could be some of the confusion when you put extra Snyder marks in, like Mark did. All right, he puts the 3s in block 7, puts the 1s in block 2, and then the 5s, he actually marks all 3 places for a 5, knowing that these 5s are kind of a pointing pair cutting across row 2, puts all 3 up there in block 2. Okay, then he sees that, he put the 9 here, so this can't be a 9. He can actually solve the 9 in block 5. He solves that, which displaces that 4. Now that the 4 is right there, there's only 2 spots for the 4. And that's going to help with some more solving here. After putting in that 4, he's able to solve for the 1 now in block 5 and the 1 up in block 2. After doing that, he puts some 1s in block 6, only 2 possibilities there. And then in block 8, block 9 and row 8 as well. After doing that, now since he made this 4, he can actually call this a hidden pair 4, 7, which blocks out that Snyder 3, and he can solve for the 3 now in block 8. After doing the 3 in block 8, he's able to come up here in the block 2 and solve for the 3 up there, solve for the 6. After solving for the 6, then he solves for the 2, kind of working his way across row 2 there. Realizes there's only a 6, 9 in block 1, 2, 5 there in block 2, and then he comes down and sees, I got this 6 here and this 6 here with the 4, 7. Only 1 place for 6 in block 8. And now he's able to finish the rest of block 8 besides the 4, 7. So he gets the 8 there and the 5 right there. And then he sees with these 2 6s and this 6, he can solve for 6 in block 9 and then kind of work his way across row 7. First, he gets that 6 up there in block 8. So he gets the 6 and the 5 because there's only 1 place left for the 6 in column 8. Then he gets that 5 and the 7 like I was talking about. All right. displacing that Snyder 3, you can solve for a 3 there, solve for a 1 there. You got a 2-9 pair in block 9, looking good. And then he comes back up and says, oh, I got this 5. I can solve the 2-5 up in block 2. He solves for the 2-5 there. And then he can solve for the 8 now because he has this 8 right there. So he solves for the 8 and finishes up column 4 with a 5. After doing the 5, you got a 2-6 naked pair in 2. And again, we still have quite a bit to solve here. So I hope you're staying with me. I got some really good solving here. 2-6, and then he does a 5. He got a 2-6 here. Notice this is only going to be a 2-6 as well, and so that leaves a 7 in this cell, row 5, column 1. So he solves for 7 there, and starts working his way around with the 7s. Because this 7 can't be in these spots, he can solve for 7 right there. And then this disambiguates the 4-7, so he solves both of those. Works his way now. This displaces this Snyder 4, so he can solve for the 4 and solve for the 9. Comes up and sees a 6-9, solves for both of those. Then he works in here and says, I got a 2-5 and a 2-5 and a 6. And he realizes with the 5 here and the 6 cutting across, he can solve the 2 there, the 6 there, and he cuts and solves this 2 and 6 as well. All right, finishes up row 6 with the 5, which helps him get this 9-5 up here and the 9-2 down in block 9. And then he's just kind of finishing up in the block here. So he gets the 7, he gets the 2, and the 1. And the last digit he solves is a 5. You want to see some more magic by Mark Goodliffe with buy value cells and alternate inference change? Check this video out. Please consider supporting me through my Buy Me a Coffee link, and thank you so much for watching.